Good evening. At this time, the chair recognizes Ms. Rolanda Kelly.
Good afternoon. My name is Rolanda Kelly, and I am a senior at Sarasville High School. My interests are in math and science. This year, I am taking AP Statistics, AP Calculus, Forensic Science, English 12, College Summit, AFJ ROTC, and GEM. My future plans is to attend the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill or Johns Hopkins to major in nursing or psychology. My long-term goal is to become a pediatrician. Now, without further ado, I would like to welcome you to the September 22nd Board of Education meeting. This evening, the Board of Education will discuss the Office of Constituent Services. Under consent agenda, the Board of Education will address the September 2011 National Recovery Month. And as a new reader under new business, the state grants for Crossland High School, Forrestville Military Academy, and Largo High School will be introduced. Please keep checking www.pgcps.org for upcoming Board of Education events and meetings. And now, the September 22nd Board of Education meeting will begin.
Thank you, Ms. Rolanda Kelly, a 12th grade student at Sarasville High School. And for those of you who may be watching on the television, she did not have a prompter as she was giving the board agenda, which is very good. Thank you so much for coming. At this time, I want to introduce Ms. Lori Anderson. She is the new board administrative secretary, and she is transitioning to the board office as Ms. Jackie Brown is transitioning out of the board office to the superintendent's office. Ms. Anderson, if you would please stand. Thank you very much for joining our staff. Ms. Waller, would you please lead us in the board prayer and pledge of allegiance?
Oh God, we pray to administer that which is just in all educational policies, being ever mindful of your guidance, stir us to action with love, wisdom, and understanding. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Waller. Ms. Dent, call the roll, please.
Mr. Armwood.
Present.
Ms. Boston.
Present.
Mr. Burrows.
Aye.
Ms. Eubanks.
Here.
Ms. Higgins.
Here.
Ms. Johnson. Ms. Waller.
Here.
Ms. Jackson.
Here.
Mrs. Beck.
Present.
Mrs. Jacobs.
Here. Thank you. All board members are accounted for. Colleagues, prior to adoption of the agenda, please note the following. Item 8.2, budget reassignments under the budget consent agenda, and item 10.2, new board policy 3325, minority business enterprise goals and reporting, has been deleted from the agenda. May I have a motion to adopt the September 22nd, 2011 board meeting agenda as amended?
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Ms. Beck. Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Been properly moved and second that we adopt the agenda as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Colleagues, may I have a motion to approve the August 25th, 2011 board meeting minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Boston.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second that we approve the minutes for the August 25th, 2011 board meeting. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any objections or abstentions? Motion passed. We will now have a news break entitled Middle College.
At this time, I would like the class of 2015 to please stand.
The applause for the rising ninth graders at Lanham Hall was a little louder than normal because those eventual high school graduates will likely be getting more than just a diploma at the end of their 4 years. As pioneers in a middle college program that lets students attend high school on the Prince George's Community College campus, 100 Prince George's high schoolers are about to start the journey of a lifetime.
But what we want you to know is that you have signed on to something very special. Many of you are going to leave here in 4 years with not just a high school diploma, but an associate degree, a 2-year degree. That will enable you, we hope, to transfer to a 4-year institution, and if you are not quite ready, it will enable you to move into the world of work for some entry-level positions. But what we want you to understand is that this Academy of Health Sciences is a stepping stone.
That stepping stone will be all the more useful since many of the 100 middle college students chosen from the 980 applicants face challenges both socioeconomic and academic.
We also determined, and based upon the middle college philosophy, that 50% of the students admitted into this program would be first-generation college students and/or on free and reduced lunch. Why is that significant? Because the research shows us that there are smart kids who go to high school and they drop out. They not only not get a high school diploma, but they do not go on to college.
As the students eased into college life during their summer orientation, they were comforted to learn that they weren't giving up high school entirely. Not until their junior year would the college courses kick in, for instance. And yes, clubs and dances and even the prom aren't going away. And even though interscholastic sports are off the list, there are some very nice compensations.
I really like how it combines both a high school experience and a college experience. So we get both high school credits and college credits, and plus it's a lot of really nice people and the teachers are really supportive.
What have you enjoyed so far?
So far I like the fun activities they have. They don't try to make it boring. They try to bring our interest into it, like acting and singing and writing poetry too.
Okay. What are you looking forward to in the future in this program?
In the future, I'm looking forward to the psychology class. I'm really interested in that. That's what I'm looking forward to the most.
And while the middle college program at the community college is in the health sciences, other disciplines already beckon.
And we want to think about other middle colleges in and around our county so that we're also offering other occupations. So we would love to see one in education. We would love to see one in law enforcement. We would love to see one in engineering.
Although middle college programs have been around for nearly 40 years, they still beg the question, does a college environment really benefit someone who is still in high school? Well, just ask a California middle college graduate who then went on to Howard University and is currently a program specialist for HUD.
Being able to be with my peer group as we matriculated together in our college classes at the community college, it was not necessarily the most easiest thing I've done in my lifetime, but I'm glad that I was able to experience it.
So good luck to the Academy of Health Sciences Middle College Program pioneers as they get set to demonstrate that you can do two things at once if you set your mind to it.
So you are history. All of you who are sitting here tonight, you will be sitting in 4 years at Showplace Arena getting your degree.
For Channels 96 and 38, this is Dave Zarin reporting.
Congratulations, Dr. Height, on what appears to be the successful launching of middle college. We're looking forward to its success. On September 13th, 2011, United Way of the National Capital Area joined forces with our Maryland Lieutenant Governor Anthony Brown and state officials to jointly donate $100,000 towards a new initiative in Prince George's County. That initiative is aimed at reducing the incidence of youth gang violence through education. Specifically, the Governor's Office of Crime Control and Prevention has committed the initial $50,000, and the United Way NCA provided a matching grant at $50,000. The idea is to work with community partners and launch a one-year pilot program which is titled Peace, Prevention, Education, Awareness, Connection, and Empowerment in 2 Prince George's County middle schools this fall. In 2009, the Prince George's and Montgomery County Gang Prevention and Suppression Initiative indicated the presence of 10,000 gang members across the Washington area. And that involvement was 12 major gangs and over 400 local crews. Specifically within Prince George's County, the Youth and Gang Violence Task Force has reported that 1,800 gang and crew members are active across the county, representing 250 gangs or crews. The Way to Peace program will be implemented in 2 of the lowest performing middle schools in the southern part of the county, where incidence of gang activity has been designated as the highest, specifically Benjamin Stoddard and Thurgood Marshall middle schools. United Way NCA will lead this project and engage 4 key community partners in reaching out to gang-involved and targeted youth and families to link them with needed services and programs. The partners involved in this will include, but are not limited to, Community of Hope AME Church, Step Into the Light Ministries, Dreams Work Incorporated, and Circle of Hope. Many of these partners are already working on these issues collectively under Way to Peace initiative. The grant will enable them to reach more of our at-risk youth. I want to congratulate Dr. Heitz for his recent appointment to the National Parent-Teacher Association. His term will expire in 2013. The national board members serve 2-year terms and are either elected by convention delegates or appointed by the national president as at-large members. Board members are non-paid volunteers. During his tenure, Dr. Height will support the National PTA in meeting the goals of their strategic plan as they collectively create a research agenda that advocates family engagement to support educational success, health, and well-being, develop and implement evidence-based policies, programs, and resources to recognize and implement best practices among PTAs through 2013. As the largest volunteer child advocacy association in the nation, Parent-Teacher Association reminds our country of its obligations to children and provides parents and families with a powerful voice to speak on behalf of every child while providing the best tools for parents to help their children to be successful students. Kudos to our students. School choirs at Gwynn Park Middle School, Frederick Douglass High School, and Northwestern High School have much to be excited about this year. The choirs have been invited to perform at Carnegie Hall in New York City. The performances will take place in January 2012. In addition, Northwestern School Choir has officially been accepted to participate in South African Choir Festival in July 2013. Congratulations, Ms. Waller, Ms. Beck, those are your district. On January 16, 2012, the Gwynn Park Middle School Choir, led by Mr. John Briggs, and Frederick Douglass High School Choir, led by Ms. Marilyn Walls, will participate in the U.S. premiere performance of Carl Jenkins' Peacemakers on the Distinguished Concerts International New York Concert Series. Students will expend approximately 9 to 10 hours in rehearsals preparing for the big concert, in addition to exploring history and culture in New York. 100 students and alumni from Northwestern High School Choir, under the direction of Ms. Leona Lowry, will perform 5 concerts in Pretoria, Soweto, Cape John, Johannesburg, and Stellenbosch in South Africa, July 4 through 14, 2013. Students and alumni will have the chance to perform with many South African choirs, tour the different cities, participate in workshops with famous choral conductors, and participate in cultural exchange events. Yesterday, students from James E. Duckworth Regional became board members for a day. Upon arrival, the students took their seats here at the head of the boardroom, after which they introduced themselves, each board member using Big Mac and Little Mac voices output devices. We were asked questions such as, what do you like best about your job? When were you in middle school? What did you want to be when you grew up? And what is the role of the school board? And what is the hardest part of your job? Which also took the longest to explain. The students enjoyed their time with the board and were given an opportunity to interview all board members who were present and Dr. William Height. We extended an invitation to students of James E. Duckworth to come and visit again. It was a wonderful experience. Thank you, Ms. Johnson, for coordinating this event. Upcoming events that we'd like for you to keep on your calendar. One change that I'd like to note first. This Saturday, September 24th, 2011, the board will have a retreat. It was originally scheduled to be held at Largo High School. It will be held here at the Sasser Building at 8 a.m. On October 3rd, 2011, at 6 p.m., we have a public hearing proposing to rename the William Schmidt Administration Building to the John Neville Administration Building. October 12th at 6 p.m., the Disabilities Issues Advisory Board will meet. On October 13th at 1 p.m., we have a board meeting. October 19th, we have our Capital Improvement Plan and Finance Audit and Budget Committee meetings will be convening here, starting at 5 o'clock. There will also be the Superintendent's Operating Budget public hearing at 7 o'clock on the same day. On October the 25th at 7 p.m., the Superintendent's 2013 Operating Budget public hearing will be held here at Sasser again. And on October 27th, we have a scheduled board meeting. If you're interested in speaking at any board meeting, you must register in the board office 2.5 hours before the time of the meeting. You may call 301-952-6115 to do so. If you wish to speak at the FY 2013 Operating Budget public hearings, you must register with the Chief Financial Office 2.5 hours prior to the meeting by calling 952-6382. Please join me in a moment of silence for the following. Tamia Wazer, a second grade student at John Bain Elementary School. Irma Armwood of Tampa, Florida, aunt of board member Henry Armwood. Thomas Hall, grandfather of Inez Claggett, board financial analyst in internal audit. And Bertha Peterson, mother of Dr. Emery Andrews, choir director at Oxon Hill High School. Thank you very much for that moment of silence. I yield the floor to Dr. Height for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, board members. Although we began the year with earthquakes, hurricanes, and floods, students and staff are back in the swing of things, and the school year is progressing well. However, I would like to announce a heads up to everyone, all parents and staff members and students, that we'll be proposing to the board at the October meeting that we consider the makeup days for the 2 days that the whole system was out. And those makeup days will be on October 21st and February 13th. And those days will be from full days to half days to make up some of the instructional time that was missed due to the earthquake and hurricane. I'm proud to announce that the Wallace Foundation is awarding $12.5 million to our school system over the span of 5 years to build 4 key parts of a principal pipeline that can develop and ensure the success of a sufficient number of principals to meet district needs. Rigorous job requirements, high-quality training, selective hiring, and on-the-job evaluation and support. In year 1 of the award, Prince George's County will receive $3.6 million to begin work on the 4 major components of the principal pipeline. A strong pipeline would have 4 interlocked parts, defining the job of the principal and assistant principal, high-quality training for aspiring school leaders, selective hiring, and leader evaluation and on-the-job support. The grant will enable our school system to define the role of the principal and assistant principal more deliberately, develop and refine a recruitment and selection process for aspiring administrators, provide high-quality training for aspiring administrators, and develop a more comprehensive evaluation system. We've also experienced other partnerships that have been happening this month that directly benefit our students. To help secondary students prepare for an academic career beyond high school, Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity hosted a free SAT prep and financial aid forum this past Saturday at Charles Herbert Flowers High School in Springdale. On the same day, the Patriots Technology Center hosted a back-to-school kickoff at Kenmore Middle School. The kickoff included competitions, conferences, and workshops that focused on careers in the STEM fields of Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. Earlier last week, FMA Live came to William Hall Academy, Walker Mill Middle School, and Central High School to engage students in a live stage show that teaches about Newton's 3 laws of motion. FMA Live is a collaboration between NASA and Honeywell and is the only nationally touring multimedia science education production of its kind. I extend my appreciation to our business partners who hosted these events and appreciate their partnership and support of our goal to expand opportunities for students and prepare them for college. I'd like to congratulate the following 7 students from Eleanor Roosevelt High School who were recently named semi-finalists in the 2012 National Merit Scholarship Program. Stephen Cable, Anna Flynn, Maxwell Golan, Linus Hamilton, Patrick Healy, Lydia Nichols Russell, and Amber Uhouse Clark. These impressive scholars have the opportunity to continue in the competition for 8,300 National Merit Scholarship Awards worth more than $34 million to be awarded next spring. Madam Chair, that concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Height. Colleagues, we have public comment on agenda items for item 10.1. At this time, we are at item 5.0, which is our legislative agenda, and ask that Mr. Lucci please come forward.
You have before you tonight 4 draft bills that for your consideration, if you wish to have them be requested as bills for the 2012 session of the General Assembly. The first one would include Prince George's County and the Baltimore City law that allows Baltimore City currently to put a drug hotline number on any new or replaced drug-free school zones. Fairly straightforward. Perhaps the district has the authority right now, but since it's explicitly it's there for Baltimore City, you could argue that you have to have the explicit authority to do that. And so that's the first one for your consideration. I guess I'll explain all 4, and then you can go back. The second one is a year-round school bill. Presently, there are half dozen jurisdictions that have the authority to have 1 or more schools operate year-round, still the 180-day school number of days, but spread out the vacation time throughout the year. And this would add Prince George's County to the list of school districts that have that authority. The third one is a minimum capacity standard bill. This bill, unlike the first 2, would have a statewide impact. It would require the State Board of Education to require local boards, subject to state board approval, to have established minimum capacity standards for elementary, middle, and high schools. Standards for each one. So it would be the local jurisdiction that would adopt it, but it would have to be run by the state in order to do that. And then the fourth bill before you this evening has to do with the law regarding both speed monitoring cameras as well as the new provision that passed last year to have school bus monitoring cameras. Presently, and you've seen maybe perhaps a lot of these cameras in front of the county public schools throughout the county. The current law says that those proceeds must be used for law enforcement, whether it be at the municipal, county, or state level. This bill would also allow those proceeds to be used for public education purposes as well, since revenues are generated from being in front of or next to county public schools. So those are the 4 proposals. If you want to go ahead and either adopt them or not adopt them, whichever you do, the ones that you do want to suggest, I'll have submitted for sponsorship for the 2012 General Assembly session.
Thank you, Mr. Lucci. And before I yield to colleagues, Dr. Height, did you have a position on, and let's go in order, I guess, for 124, the drug hotline bill? If you've had an opportunity to.
No, I've had an opportunity, Madam Chair, and on each bill, and I can take them collectively, and there is support for all 4 of these from my administration and from me, and I think that if in fact as we talk about maximum capacity issues of schools, then this is a proposal to establish minimum capacity by the state board. That's the second bill. And the drug hotline, of course, I would be in support of that. The speed monitoring on school bus and in front of schools, there is a significant amount of revenue that's collected now from speed cameras that are in front of county school systems. This bill would make a proposal to utilize at least a portion of those funds for public education. And then the year-round school bill, it would need to be more conversation about year-round. There are several ways we could look at year-round, either the addition of more days or adjusting our calendar so that we're using the number of days within our calendar differently. And so one would mean that there will be financial implications, i.e. if we added more days. The other is a change of the calendar, which we would, and it's change of how we would utilize the days that are already in place. So while I'm in support of the year-round school or having the ability to structure a calendar so that students are not off as long as they are now, given the 10 weeks that they're off in the summer, I would be in support of a bill that will allow us the flexibility to change or make our calendar more flexible, so we're reducing the amount of time that students are out of school.
Thank you, Dr. Height, for your review on all four of those. Colleagues, however, I would like to take these in order. So I have buzzers. Are your questions specifically first on the drug hotline bill? Yours is. Ms. Higgins.
What number would we use? Is it a school number? I don't believe we have a county drug hotline number.
I think one would have to be created, perhaps through the county health department or through the school system, but you're right, I don't believe there is one in existence now.
I mean, there's a crisis line number, et cetera, and I don't know, but okay. That's all for that bill.
Thank you. Any other questions on the drug hotline bill? I'm sorry, Ms. Eubanks?
Yes, I do. Does the county at the present have one specifically for substance abuse?
I don't believe so, no, ma'am.
Okay, so are we trying to do this for us through the school system, or can we submit this so that the county will fit the bill for that? Because that should be a county thing. I've had 12 years working with substance abuse in Washington, D.C., and that was something that bothered me, to say the least, because I had people coming from Prince George's County seeking services, and I had to send them back to the county where I live and I love, but we weren't providing any services for them. So that's my recommendation, that should be a county thing, so anyone within the county could use those services, that we not have to foot the bill for that. And that's just my comment.
Ms. Eubanks, may I ask that Karen Lynch provide a response, because she's worked from 2 vantage points within our school system and as being a state agent and a county agent.
Thank you, Dr. Height. Ms. Eubanks, one of the things that the county does have available right now is community resources that provides services for emergencies, suicide prevention, and youth crisis. So it very likely would be, they also have the 211 responsibility, so they very likely would have this responsibility in this instance should this bill pass. Okay.
Move to support.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and second that we support to propose 4124 to apply to Prince George's County. Any further discussion?
Just, is this item 1?
I'm sorry?
The hotline that we're
Yes.
doing one at a time. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? Abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Thank you. Colleagues, minimum capacity standard bill. Ms. Beck?
I understand the concept here, Dr. Height. I would first rather like to see our district create some minimum standards or minimum capacities and some guidelines for how that would be done, because I'm thinking about our alternative schools that are now occupying former elementary schools, and I'm assuming that there will have to be a lot of qualifiers when an elementary school is no longer technically an elementary school but is housing a different program. I think for me, I could support this more fully if I first saw a draft of the language rather than just us supporting the state mandating us to do something. I'm really not in favor of us telling the state we want you to direct us to do something that we don't already have a response available to. And this is to be a statewide mandate. And so I'm quite sure it would go through MABE and PZAM and other entities. So that's why I think it'd probably be better for us to have a fuller picture of what a minimum standard is technically. So those are my concerns.
Thank you, Ms. Beck. Ms. Johnson?
Ms. Beck took care of it.
Mr. Burrows?
Mr. Lucci, if this bill is passed, if we have a school that is under enrollment, by law, we would have to shut the school down. Is that correct?
That would be the implication of this, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions on minimum capacity? Mr. Armwood?
If I'm reading this, the state board, no, the local boards, the county board sets that minimum requirement. Is it your understanding that it would be a flat minimum or it would be on a per school basis? Do you know?
It gives the local jurisdiction full flexibility to do as it wants, subject to the state board's approval. But it doesn't specify how that would be done, just that there would be one for elementary, one for middle, one for high school. But how that's done and how it's always done as a percentage or for different types of schools or whatever, that's all left to the local school board.
What is the intent of the legislature in this bill?
Well, I mean, if this is, the intent with this would be to have minimum capacities for schools below which a school would not operate.
I mean, what is their goal? To save money?
Well,
I
mean, the legislature hasn't seen this bill, but I mean, the purpose of this would be to save money and not to operate school buildings that have many empty rooms.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments on the minimum capacity? Mr. Burrows?
Mr. Lucci, I just want to thank you for your work that you do as the board's lobbyist and also recognize our county student government lobbyists, Ms. Ahmed and Mr. Baker here, who are with us.
Great. I look forward to working with them.
Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, any action?
I'd like to move to table until Dr. Height could give us examples or draft language of what minimum capacity standards would look like with qualifiers for the different types of schools and different types of populations that we have already in our existing schools.
And so, Madam Chair, what penalties, if this becomes law, there've got to be penalties. So that also needs to be added to Ms. Beck's recommendation for tabling.
I'm just looking to you because that's what I thought. Okay, so this matter is tabled. Dr. Height, do you have any idea what time frame, if you wanted to move forward with this, that you could get that information?
We could have this back by the next meeting,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. So we'll plan staff to have that at the next schedule.
Madam Chair, was there a second on the motion to table?
Oh, I thought you just said.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
there was, but I
did
thought
not
you
hear
just said
that.
you didn't need one.
Thank you.
All in favor? Okay. All right, that brings us to speed monitoring school bus monitoring bill.
Move to accept.
Is there a second? Thank you. It's been properly moved and second that we accept the speed monitoring and school bus monitoring bill. Any discussion? Ms. Higgins?
Yes, as a contributor to the photo tickets in the area, I am very much in favor of it. The monies go to the schools. However, at least in my neighborhood, many of those are municipalities who do not have direct influence from the schools. So I think that the bill would need to clarify how we would capture the monies that are going to the municipalities.
I mean, the way the bill is written, it says may, and so a municipality can be charitable and donate money to the school, although it's unlikely that it would do so. Most likely it's just really aimed at counties that operate the school systems and not the state, but the counties which could do that. But as you say, within a municipality there are city roads, county roads, and state roads, and you have different jurisdictions collecting the fee from different ones. So it's a very complicated thing to be able to put that into legislative language rather than just giving the broad flexibility to, once this is in, then lobby the different levels of government, particularly the county, to make some contributions.
Well, you know, I mean, certainly the goal of the bill is to get it passed. However, I do know that law allows for, I think it's 10% of the revenue goes to the municipality if they have up to 10% of the revenue if they have that much in expenditures for public safety. So that we could suggest to whoever's putting the bill in that we use some language so that it isn't up to other people's generosity, but maybe a percentage either that goes to the municipality or the unspent money. If they can't spend the whole 10% or something like that, so that we're using some formula and not are dependent on the benefit, you know, somebody feeling generous. Or we could take some of the 90% that goes to the state. Anyway, my suggestion would be that we use, that there be some language to talk about formula and not just have it the school system. The municipalities are generating quite a bit of money as well.
Miss Boston?
Mr. Lucci, I've seen some of those speed cameras that are not in a municipality. They're outside or in unincorporated. So that statement that you're making, then we'll go back to the state, or how would that work?
Under the current law, only municipalities have this requirement that they can't collect more than 10% of their budget from speed cameras, because I think their town of Chevy Chase Village at one point was collecting 45% of its budget from one speed camera on Connecticut Avenue, and that's why they try to put a cap to that. There's no similar cap for counties or for the state, only for municipalities who, as Ms. Higgins stated, are not really normally in the role of supporting public education. They're not a part of that. So
from what Ms. Higgins is saying, so it seemed like there would be two different issues or two different strategies, I guess, to use, one for the county and one for the municipalities on how we would address this issue.
Right. I mean, there are some municipalities that try and support the schools within their jurisdictions through some type of grant sometimes, or stipends for teachers. Others, of course, don't do that because they're just able to get along and struggle just to have a balanced budget. But it really varies.
Thank you.
Mr. Armwood and Ms. Waller.
My concern is in the language. It says, subject to the subparagraph, it may spend any remaining balance solely for public education and public safety purposes. I think experience has been, when they use that language, may, very often the state does redirect that funds to the general fund or to other purposes. What is the likelihood of getting that language changed that it shall spend as opposed to may spend? Because I don't trust them, frankly.
Well, I mean, there's actually a court decision that says that circumstances like this may actually means shall. And in this case, all the monies have been going to the counties and cities, and they have been using it for law enforcement.
Can we use that for the lottery money that never gets to us?
I know, and it goes to stadiums, right?
Thank you.
Ms. Waller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In School Board District 3, I have 5 municipalities, and I've noted that in some places where they're putting the speed cameras, they're not exactly in the location of where the schools are because it's either a state road or a county road. And I have expressed concern to Dr. Height about these locations. And of course, I think that it's going to affect the monies that we do get. And I agree with my colleague, Ms. Higgins, about the monies that would be coming into the school system. But some of the cameras are not located exactly where the schools are. The schools that are affected, I know one in particular that comes to mind, they don't have a crossing guard, or there's just nothing there to slow traffic down, and it's, I believe it's a state road, and so this does not have an effect on it, but there are many ramifications to the speed cameras and where they're being located. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Waller. Any further comments? Seeing none, I believe we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Or do I need to call the roll? Call the roll, Ms. Dent. This is on 7302.
Mr. Armwood?
Aye.
Ms. Boston?
Aye.
Mr. Burrows?
Aye.
Ms. Eubanks?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson? Ms. Waller?
No.
Ms. Jackson?
Aye.
Mrs. Beck?
Aye.
Ms. Jacobs?
Aye. Thank you. That brings us to motion pass. Thank you. That brings us to the year-round school bill. Ms. Johnson?
Yes, I think that the support of a year-round school, it is a tremendous idea. It is one whose time has come. However, Mr. Lucci, is there any glimmer of any incentive money to have school districts begin to do this?
There may be some savings in terms of building maintenance, not to have it shut down and then have to reopen for a period of time. But I don't think there's any federal money coming down for this type of
No,
concept.
I'm talking about state money.
I haven't heard any of that either.
Because clearly everybody knows this is a huge financial undertaking. And in the bill, I'd like to ask, are there any provisions that rather than having the entire LEA school district, that a school district could make some choices about certain sections within their school district that may have a real need for extending the school day? Let's say in 4 schools, 5 schools, or all middle schools, or something of that type. Are there any provisions? Because I didn't see any ability. You know, I read it, but I didn't see where an LEA could make adjustments within the language.
Yes, Ms. Johnson. The language just say you can operate it in 1 or more schools, and so
okay,
it'll be up to the LEA to
and
decide.
So those choices would,
right,
with those provisions. Okay.
And the other thing is about the number of days. The 180 days will be a floor, but the school system would have the option to have it.
No, I got that. Yeah, 180. That's where we are. Clearly, in these times for 21st century education, for my colleagues, we know that extending the school day, but it's not just about doing that. You've got employee cost. You know, you'd have to add another lunch period or snack period. You know, there are tremendous costs. Also, additional books and things because kids could take additional classes. It is wonderful. The time has come, but without a real construct in the state, through the State Board of Ed, to enable this kind of thing to drive it, school districts would be taking on a huge burden, and you would have separation even worse between those districts who could afford it to attempt it and those that couldn't even try it. It is a concern to me.
Right. I mean, of the 6 jurisdictions that currently have the authority to do that, I'm not sure any of them really do it at all. Because as you said, you have to take a 10-month employee and make them a 12-month employee, and right there's 20% increase in costs.
Ms. Jackson?
Hi, I was a little discombobulated by the language of this bill. Would it be allowing Prince George's County to change the schedule within the 180 days, or would it actually be allowing us to expand past the 180-day school year, or would it be doing both?
Either would be up to the school system.
Ms. Boston?
This question is directed to Dr. Height. Have your staff did any research on how much this would actually cost the school system to do a year-round school? And if you did, do you have those figures?
We have estimates, Ms. Boston, and as I indicated in my remarks about all of the bills together, it depends, and it depends on the question that Ms. Jackson just raised. If, in fact, we change the calendar so that we're using the same number of days but using those differently, that has less of an impact. I'm not suggesting it has no impact. It has less of an impact on our budget than if we add additional days. In fact, there could be some cost savings if, in fact, the breaks are at points in time where you can save on utility costs or heating costs or other types of costs associated with our students being in school. So for instance, districts that have moved in this direction, and many have moved in the direction for different reasons. Some have moved in the direction to extend time, which means they're adding days. Others have moved to reduce the regression that occurs over the summer. And so some districts have gone to a 45-15 model. Students are in school 45 days and off for 15 days. And then it's a rotating schedule, which means that it's still 180 days approximately, but the breaks are at different places. And then if you get a break that is in January, February for 3 weeks, then that's a significant cost savings during a time when there are high energy costs.
Ms. Beck?
The language that currently exists, the county boards of Allegheny, Anne Arundel, Calvert, Howard, Montgomery, and we're proposing to add Prince George's to this, as well as the Board of School Commissioners of Baltimore City may elect to operate one or more schools. I think that this just provides us the authority so that if money starts falling from who knows where, and we're always looking for innovation and innovative ways to try things and pilot programs. I would hate to think that an opportunity came to us at some point and this became a stumbling block because we didn't have this authorizing piece in this language. I don't think that it says to the community, we're going to do this now. It just provides us the open door that if we do find a way to do something really innovative, that we already have the authority from the state to move forward in it. And that's why I'll be supporting this. Thank you.
Mr. Armwood?
Thank you. To Dr. Hyatt or Mr. Lucci, do you know if there's any, well, while I support changing the school year, is there any available data from nationwide as to the benefit of extending the school year or changing the school year, besides the question of regression? Has it actually been done and shown to benefit achievement of students?
Most of the information, Mr. Armwood, is on regression. and the regression that occurs during that period of time. This is an area that I did considerable research on because my dissertation was on extending the school year. And so part of what we found is that if you continue along the same path of doing the things, you're not likely to get different results. And so that extended time, if you will, has to be used to engage students in a different way. What I'm proposing is not extending the time, it's changing the calendar. And this would allow us the flexibility to change the calendar.
If we simply change the calendar, will we get a different result than we're getting now?
There are results that indicate that to the degree that you can reduce the regression that occurs during the summer months for most school systems, then students typically exhibit higher achievement the following year. And regression is what happens during that length of time that students are away from school. And it would be 3 week maximum breaks here at different intervals during the year, as opposed to a 9 or 10 week break that we have grown accustomed to in a traditional model.
Thank you, Mr. Armwood. Ms. Johnson?
My intent was not to support this. There's no question. My questions had to do with what are some of the incentives for offering to LEAs to really work, to begin looking at how we can structure this. Because we have to also talk about the money. Our support of it is not, I'm clearly going to support this because the fact it's being proposed says perhaps we can begin to really create a dynamic where some of this can begin to happen. So yeah, I am in support of it, but clearly this is hugely costly. And if we do not begin exploring ways that we can begin to even experiment with a single school, we're never going to get to an entire school district. So yes, I am supportive, but we have to discuss money and what is the state going to do to support it, and they really need to do that.
The state or the county, and or the county.
And in any event, Superintendent Height would have to make a recommendation to the board with a presentation, and it would have to be approved. Is that correct, or does that fall within this? Okay, same schedule process. Is there a motion?
I move.
Thank you, Ms. Boston. Is that a second, Ms. Johnson? It's been properly moved and second that the board supports having Prince George's County Public Schools added to current legislation that gives it at least the authority to look at calendaring for school schedules. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Dent, call the roll, please.
Mr. Armwood?
Aye.
Ms. Boston?
Aye.
Mr. Burrows?
Aye.
Ms. Eubanks?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Ms. Waller? Ms. Jackson?
Aye.
Mrs. Beck?
Aye.
Mrs. Jacobs?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Mr. Lucci,
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Height, that brings us to item 6.1.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're pleased this evening to provide a presentation to the board that talks about a new office, and it is in response to Board Policy 1600, Administrative Procedure 1600, and this is a presentation on the Office of Constituent Services. And this office has really been designed to provide parents and other stakeholders and constituents with an avenue for having their issues addressed and to resolve conflicts and to really do all of this in an equitable and timely manner. So to talk about that today is our Director of the Office of Constituent Service, Ms. Robin Schell, and so I will yield at this time to Ms. Schell.
Okay. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Height and board members, for this opportunity to provide you with an update on the Office of Constituent Services, which was formally instituted in July. And as of Monday, this coming Monday coming up, We will have a staff of 2 specialists, Mr. Anthony Boyd and Dwight Benjamin, who are actually here tonight with me. If you just stand real quickly for me. Thank you. Really proud of my team. And a secretary along with myself. The board adopted the Constituent Services Policy 1600 April 10th of 2008 to ensure that constituent concerns were addressed and stipulated the development of a reliable tracking system for handling concerns and reporting the resolution of reported concerns. We also had an administrative procedure that was actually developed in 2005 to respond promptly to concerns from the public, and that used to be found on the personnel section of the administrative procedures. That has now been revised and is Administrative Procedure 1600, and it can be found now under System Guidance and Community Relations. The mission of Constituent Services is to provide technical assistance and conflict resolution to resolve constituent concerns in an equitable and timely manner. It is also to inform the superintendent and the Board of Education of trends and issues for responsible systemic change. To help in ensuring that timely responses, the timely response to concerns, and to track the issues that may have systemic impact, the constituent tracking system, or as we refer to it now in our office as CTS, was developed. CTS is a software that was created by IT to record and track formal concerns of constituents. Constituents may submit concerns using a paper form and give it to the school or office involved, or they may now file a concern online. I was hoping that I would be able to click on that link there to go to the actual concern form that is now live online. Thank you. If you go to that page, that's the page for our office, and go on the side there. Go back up, please. And on the left-hand side, you click on Constituent Concern Form. You will find the Constituent Concern Form is now online for our constituents to file a concern. And as you may know, our website now has a language link, basically, that this concern form will be converted to the various languages that are offered on our website, which I think is a very exciting and great opportunity. And as you can see, a constituent will submit that concern. You are required to put in the email address, which is important. If you're following it online, we would like to have your email address. Could you just put in your email address for me, please? And if you can go down and select Submitted By. Go back up, please. Submitted By. Just select any category. Thank you, anyone. And then if you can go down and select the type of concern, pull that menu. If you can see, we also added a category called compliment, because as a result of talking to some of our divisions and departments, they wanted to have that opportunity to have someone submit a compliment by any chance, and so we added that as well. Go down to the bottom and hit submit. And the constituent is provided a response and told what the next steps are in the process. Thank you. If we can go back to the presentation. All right. Go back to number 5. Okay. Once a concern is submitted, constituents will want to know how long will it take to receive a response to reported concerns. That's very important, because that's why we have the office, of course. And the school or office should acknowledge receipt within 10 days of a concern. I'm sorry, did I say 10? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Thank you. Within 2 days. They should set up a meeting whenever that is appropriate with the constituent within 5 days, and they should provide a decision within 10 days unless an extension has been requested. And this is all contained in the new Administrative Procedure 1600. what happens to reported concerns that are not satisfactorily resolved? The constituent may ask for a review by the appropriate superintendent's designate or central office personnel. They can ask for a review by the Office of Constituent Services, and as always, constituents may appeal the decision to the Board of Education, and Constituent Services will also help explain how to appeal to the Board of Education. Many of the concerns have administrative procedures that address the appeal process. For example, a family contacted Constituent Services regarding their dissatisfaction with a suspension, which is already addressed in the Code of Student Conduct under Administrative Procedure 10101. Through the discussion with the family, they had some questions about bullying. So the process for reporting bullying was also explained to that family, and they were directed to the appropriate administrative procedure on that, which is 5143. But also during the dialogue with the family, they had questions about how can I get the suspension expunged from my student's record. And so we were able to direct them to the appropriate administrative procedure on that and explain that process to them. The opportunities for mediation and counseling were also explored during that conversation with the family, and information as well from the family about the incident and how the family felt administrators handled the incident were received, so that we could then go back to the school to communicate to them concerns that were expressed about reporting the incident and about how they dealt with the communication with that family. Thus, overall, the family may seek to expunge the suspension or appeal it, but they also were provided an opportunity to have their concerns voiced in a timely manner. Okay. The following slide here provides a graphic overview of the constituent concern process for school-based concerns when constituents submit a concern either on a paper form or online. And as you can see, they basically follow the same process because we want to make sure that there's an equal flow, whether you do it online or in paper format. And this slide provides a graphic overview for non-school-based concerns. And an example of that would be maybe a problem with the transportation. A student may have a problem with transportation, in which the complaint would go to the transportation office or the supervisor involved with that. And if the family is not satisfied, then it could potentially go to the director or ultimately to the chief of supporting services, if necessary. I'm clicking here, number 9. Okay, thank you. As an update on what Constituent Services has completed to date, I have provided a breakdown by Phase 1 and Phase 2, and I'll just quickly go through that. In Phase 1, Constituent Services has interviewed divisions and departments to discuss their processes for receiving and resolving concerns, to understand the administrative procedures that impact their work, to get the point of contact information for their offices, because that's extremely important even for us to have the right person to call and speak with, and to overall get their input into this process. We have revised the administrative procedure, which is now 1600, and put it in a more friendly place to for our constituents to find it, and quite interestingly, it actually is the same number as the board policy, so I thought that was great. We created the constituent concern form in paper and online format with the assistance from the Communications Division, and I want to thank Mr. Coleman for that. They were a huge help in his division with helping us develop that. We updated the tracking system to include some newer features, and we're still working with IT on capacity issues and addressing any enhancements that may be needed. We have completed 3 staff trainings to get the users familiar with the system. We have established access to language links to assist constituents who speak other languages. We have sent information packets to elected officials to help them with identifying offices and people that they can contact to assist in navigating the system. And that's been some great time as well, because we're finding that sometimes they didn't even know the correct persons to contact. And so, of course, they send it to the board office. And so, of course, it's been going through the board office and back to the superintendent and down the line. We have met with the Director of Education, Health, and Human Services Committee for the County Council, and will continue to meet with them. We've met with the PTA Council. We'll be participating in their event on October 1st. And we are making ourselves available to attend the PTA, PTSA, PTO meetings that occur throughout the county. We've participated in the Back to School Fair, and we will also participate in the COMA workshops that will take place this Saturday. And we've also begun to meet with community groups in our county and establishing contact with them. In Phase 2, Constituent Services is continuing to receive feedback about the tracking system and the process for resolving concerns. We seek to expand the users of the tracking system, and that will require some additional training. We're seeking to increase Constituent Services engagement with our community, and so we're always looking for events and opportunities to engage our community, and we would love suggestions from others to do that. We're providing technical assistance to staff on using CTS or the tracking system and on how to address constituent concerns, and we're working with the Communication Division to develop different formats to educate constituents about the office in the process for them to address concerns. And we'd also like to get to a point where we will start submitting reports to the superintendent and to the board and making recommendations on areas that we think could use some assistance. In closing, the contact information for Constituent Services is on the slide, and we are available and we're very open. And in conclusion, Constituent Services remains open to suggestions and feedback to improve. I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Schell, for the presentation. It's interesting, the board, this particular policy came up just today when we were discussing some other issues. But we're glad to see that at this point we are actually going to be able to provide a service to our constituents where they can get the appropriate responses. Ms. Johnson?
Michelle, obviously there's been a lot of work done. So I want to try to be clear. If I am technologically adept, if I speak well, if I am literate and can write, if I am patient, this is going to be fabulous. And we're going to get great data reports. My concern about this is the communication methodology for transmitting a concern in Prince George's is variable. And while this we have to have, I am not suggesting we need this. It gives us ways to redirect our resources to reach those issues. But my concern with this is, how are we going to present it in such a way that it does not say to people, we are systematizing complaints now and they really don't care. I looked at all the steps that you had. I am increasingly concerned about our reliance on non-human. One of the biggest problems I have in PGCPS is the lack of answering the phone and using audio response systems, nationally and here. And while I know we want our constituents to reach us, I know that, I have no doubt, but I have grave concerns that if we put it in such a format that does not acknowledge there is a learning curve, there is an interaction curve that begins at the school site. What about are we going to put some of these items, the paper format, at clinics, grocery stores, pharmacies? They're going to go to places like that. We have a sample kiosk here, which is fabulous. In Miami, all over the city of Miami, they have kiosks. I'm not suggesting they're free, but people can do some of the very same thing you're asking, get information, do complaint, learn things, because there are kiosks all over the city. They're tied into the telephone system because they have worked that out with the phone delivery service. But I need your assurance that as you all have worked so hard for this, how can we assure our constituents that it is about touching all of them and their individual way to connect to us?
I really do appreciate your comment, and if anybody knows me and my passion for this community, you'll know that I will do everything in my power to make sure our constituents know this process. And with that said, we have met, we're taking the step to go out to our community groups. I've met personally with the NAACP to talk with them, to partner with them on how I can get this information out. I've met with the unofficial mayor of Suitland, Ms. Elsie Jacobs, and I have a great opportunity now to ride along with our officers, and we're going to visit all the apartment complexes in her area, and we're going to actually talk to the apartment complex, the persons in the office, right, and we're going to explain the process, and we're making all the forms available to them. And we're actually giving their community officers handbooks that are actually the parent guides that were actually developed by the Office of Student Services, and they're going to use those as a resource guide to give to those families. So we're thinking outside the box, and unfortunately when you do a presentation like this, sometimes that's always not expressed, but trust me, in every part of this county, there's different communities, and we're going to respond to those communities in the way that that community speaks. And I will make that a personal goal for me, because I live in this community, and my children go to the schools in this system. So I'm vested to make sure that it happens. We want to break down language barriers. We want to make sure that no one is turned away. We have computers in our office and constituent services, so if someone walks in and they need help and assistance in getting that concern filled out, they will have it. So I don't know which more I can say other than my word that it will happen. And then, of course, we're very open to suggestions. So when I heard you say some of the other places to put them, I'm already writing them down. We already are going to work with the libraries to make sure we can get forms out at the libraries. So again, we're really, this is a process that's unfolding, and we don't claim to be experts on all of it, and we need suggestions and your feedback. Whether we think they're positive or not, we're going to make them work. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Ms. Boston? Hi, Michelle. First of all, I want to thank you. I think this is a needed process in our ability to communicate with our constituents. One of my concerns, well, before I go there, one of the things that you can also do to get it out would be we all now have web pages, individual web pages, newsletters, some of the board members. That information can go out also in those forms of getting the information out. But as you know, I'm pretty sure everybody know, that a lot of our constituents, since we are now representing districts, we are getting direct emails from, I don't know how many we get a day, but those complaints are coming to us directly. Have you come up with a process by which those complaints that are coming directly to board members, because the community is reaching out to us because they expect us. They really expect us to respond to their concerns or complaints. So what I'm saying is that I want to make sure that when a constituent reaches out to me, and if I forward, or I think I could forward it to you, right, that I'm also kept in the loop of the resolution. So if it comes back to me and the board, well, I did this complaint and I sent it to constituent services and nothing happened, I'm not caught off guard when I think that I've sent it to you and it was resolved. But have you come up with a process by which to assist the board in those complaints that are coming to us and to make sure that we're getting feedback on the process of the resolution for those complaints?
Yes, actually our office is the point of contact for the elected officials and also for the board office. So when we meet with your new staff, I guess, I'm sorry, you introduced her name tonight?
Anderson.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Yes. We plan to get Ms. Anderson trained as well, and also in the constituent tracking system. Thank you. And so we look forward to working with her and the office members, and also developing the protocol so that you will always be kept in the loop, so that you'll know the outcome when they're forwarded from your office. So you'll have the ability in the system to create what we call these tickets, but you'll also have the feedback that you need to make sure you get that response and how it was resolved.
Because, well, a lot of times the board office do not get the complaints. They come directly to us because our email addresses are all out there, you know. So sometimes, you know, not putting it on our board office, they don't get those complaints unless we direct it to them. So I just want to know, have you come up with a process, or are you in the process of developing how the board, you can help the board with those complaints?
We have a process, but if you think you'd like to go ahead and give us additional input on that, we'll welcome that, and we can work that out with Dr. Height, how to meet with you to get your individual feedback so that it works for you.
Thank you.
That's what we want it to do, work for all that's involved with it, exactly.
Thank you, Ms. Boston. Ms. Beck?
I would like to ditto my colleague, Ms. Boston, that part of the most effective way that I'm doing my job is to partner in with the questions that my constituents have.
Mm-hmm.
So if they have a question, then I'm learning from their question.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the next time, or if I'm out in public, then I can answer it myself. And that helps me be a better representative for them. But I would need the response to any question that I sent copied back to me. It's interesting to know, and I think this has been such a long journey to get to where we are right now. And so I did a search in my email, and on November 17th of 2008, the Board of Ed talked about constituent tracking services at one of our trainings through the RGA site visits. And we were all gung-ho on this. This is how we can be better board members, and this is how our constituents and the public in general, even if they don't have children in the system, can contact us. I know that a lot of times people will write in and say, I don't even have children in the system, but this bus is doing this or that. And if we have enough venues so that our public can get in touch with us, where they don't have to go in and look up a board member email, then I think that the reporting and the tracking is just going to be invaluable to us. I think that we will be able to address many systemic issues through the use of these reports, which I feel might be really and equally as important as the venue to the constituents. I'm just very encouraged that, finally we're reaching a goal. A goal that's been a long time coming, but I know your work. I know your work when you were in Howard County, and I really feel like this program is in exceptional hands. And so I'm very comfortable that in a time of very few economic resources that we were able to carve out this office, because it is going to be so responsive to our community. So I want to say thank you, Dr. Height, for including this in our budget.
Thank you, Ms. Beck. Ms. Eubanks?
I'm happy to see this as well. And while we're doing this on paper and on the web, I just want to make sure that it's still accessible. I went on our actual website. Where would they find it if they went on the website, other than going under search? I looked and I don't see it as of yet.
Yeah, we're still working with communication so that we can
Okay.
put it on all the places that we think the parents and students and employees would need to find it. So
Okay,
that's
great.
the second phase of the process that we're now in.
Okay, great.
But if you also have suggestions, we would like those as well.
Okay. Well, one suggestion would be, because we're in such a age of everything being telephones and everything, we lose the personal touch. And I didn't know if you've planned, once you get the papers in, maybe 2 days later, 3 days later, that someone at least makes the person, they'll call them to let them know that we've received your information. You know, it just kind of makes dealing with something and having an issue, at least you know that a person, a real person, has heard you. That's all. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Mr. Burrows?
Also want to thank you for the work that you're doing. I was very pleased to see you in District 8 at a community meeting, and your presentation was remarkable. Just a suggestion, when you get this form together and the link together, it might be helpful if you put it on the parent portal in SchoolMax, so that when parents log in to check grades and to check homework, this information is right there for them. And Mr. Watts, would be the person to talk to.
Thank you. Mr. Armwood?
Thank you. This is a service that we need. I'm very much in favor of a constituent services for tracking. I have several concerns, though. The form is something that your staff should fill out, not the parent. I really feel that if a parent has a concern that rises to this level, they're going to fill it out, and they call and they're looking for help. At that point, they want a human voice to acknowledge their concern and suggest something. The form itself is lacking a very important part or statement, is what have they done to resolve the issue? Have you talked to the principal? I don't want us to move this too far away from the school level when you're talking about school concerns, because the first point of contact should always be the school, the principal, and staff, since they are going to have to address these issues themselves. And the form, when you get it, should automatically be distributed to the appropriate staff at the school level. I would highly recommend that. As far as taking calls or so forth that I get, I feel that constituents calling me, contacting me about problems is an opportunity to maintain contact with my constituents, educate the constituents, and also find out what's going on in my schools. So we should be notified also at the same time when you get complaints. I also was looking for the form online and didn't find it. I'm glad to know that it will be there. Be careful about putting it on SchoolMax, though, because on SchoolMax, those are teacher issues and school issues that it might not be the best place to put it. Maybe a reference to it, but we want teachers. We don't want to drive these complaints down too low for people. And good luck. You're going to need more than one person answering the phone at a time.
Thank you. And I do want to comment that the expectation is that we're trying, the process over time, as you will see, will direct the constituent to go to the school. I mean, that is our goal, because sometimes they haven't gone there yet, or they haven't had that opportunity, or maybe they were trying to and didn't get a call back or something they would say. And so the effort is to move it back to the school and give the school an opportunity to respond. And then as you go along, you will find that we want to move away from people saying, I didn't know, because now we start the education process, and then over time people now know the process. And you move away from I didn't know to I did file and no one responded. That's a little different complaint than saying I didn't know we even had a process. It is going to take some time, though. This is not a one-year focus. It's just going to take some time to, one, educate internally and externally, and then begin also just to continue to maintain.
Ms. Waller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Certainly, I think this is a great idea, and certainly I've been a proponent of having a more efficient constituent services system. However, I have some concerns. I know that we're in the 21st century. I know everybody is into Twitter and Facebook and everything, but not everyone is. We have a lot of grandparents that are involved with our students, and we have people that don't have children that are in our schools, but they're concerned about their welfare. And since I've been on the board, we've talked about community and parent engagement, and I'm feeling a sense of loss with this system. I'm feeling that we have communities in Prince George's County, and I will refer to them as the haves and the have-nots. We have some communities, municipalities or areas, and they own that school. I mean, they're putting playground equipment in, they're doing all types of things, they're pulling in business partners, they're there at the school 24/7, they know everything that's going on. But then we have other communities that are not as fortunate, that the parents or the community is as engaged as others. And it's for those types of communities, and when we have communities that have a transient population, that have apartment complexes, we have people that are coming here that are non-English speaking. We have people that are facing social and economic situations. I do not see this system as being user-friendly. And I feel that time is of the essence. If we're going to use a system such as this is an area that we need to hit the ground running to reach out to these communities. We did away with the parent liaison position, and yet and still we said, oh no, we're parent engaged, we're community engaged. But yet and still we keep on doing this little Band-Aid effect. And I'm not feeling it right now. I'm sorry. We're deceiving our constituents. And I feel very strongly about it. Dr. Height, I know you and your staff have worked very hard, but I'm not feeling it in my district. I think you're letting some of our constituents down. I hope that this system, and Michelle, I know you've worked very hard with this. I will support it, put you in touch with civic and community organizations in my school district. I'm involved with Police District 1. Our COPS officer is excellent to help get the word out there. And I'm not quite sure, even with the timeliness of how we're going to reach our populations that are non-English speaking. You know, we have people they're saying now when they go into the schools, they don't have anyone to talk to them, to explain things to them. They don't understand how to navigate the school system. So they're in the community of the have-nots. And I feel for these people. And so I don't want to be redundant in what I'm saying, but I am concerned about those persons that are not as astute in some other communities. Where's your office located at? You mentioned something about they could come to your office. Where are you located?
We are located in the temporary unit, the one that has the huge...
You here at Sasser?
Yes, here in Sasser, and it has the huge ramp.
I know. You know what? I don't need to hear. I mean, that's fine.
Okay.
But you know what? It's very hard for our constituents from over on the other side of town to get here. And so, I mean, to be realistic, I don't know how many people from School Board District 3 are going to come to Sasser to discuss constituent services. So therefore, I mean, I don't mean to be I know you all, I don't mean to be a naysayer, but I'm just speaking it like I see it for the people that I represent. So therefore, I think that we're going to need to think about how we're going to reach people on the other side of town when they cannot get transportation. I work with people daily, and they said they don't have money to ride the bus. I mean, you know, they're working, and so these are just some of my concerns. I'm also concerned when you mentioned, we talked about the unsatisfactory resolutions and how the appeals are going to come to the board. I've used up my time. I think you all got my message.
Thank you, Ms. Waller. Ms. Higgins?
Yes, thank you very much for all that you've done. I noticed that you've put as much as you have put together in 60 days, less than 60 days, and that includes, I think, Dr. Height, your mantra is the flood, the earthquake, and the hurricane. So, I mean, with all the things that have to be done, I think you've done a marvelous, marvelous job. And I support my colleagues who point out the people that we haven't been able to kind of contact in this system. But for the most part, and we need to be very, very attentive to them, but for the most part, most people are on the internet. And this is a very, very valuable process. And also I would point out that most people want resolution, and our emails show it, of school issues. So they don't necessarily need to come to Sasser to be redirected back to their school as much as get attention from the school to be responsive to what the parent is. And I think you're setting up a system that will help speed that process. I did have one comment. If you could go back to the form. That's me, not the form. Sorry, I should have given you a heads up. And I guess I really appreciate all the attention to being attentive to people who have concerns or need assistance in terms of getting their situation resolved. But I guess where it says type of concern, I'm not an IT person, but I really think we should have type of concern and then a separate thing that says type of compliment. I mean, I think it shouldn't just be one of the categories within concern. I think it might be good to have concern, compliment, comment, because people may want to talk about a teacher or a bus driver or somebody who's really done a good job. And I know our interest is to be advocacy for people who are having problems, but I don't think we want to lose the opportunity to note that people are doing very good jobs and that many of the parents are appreciative of that and might want to have an opportunity, not buried within the, you got it. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Higgins. Colleagues, we're going to round two. Ms. Johnson.
Michelle, I would like to offer a suggestion. We have we're looking at connecting to businesses with the communication office, maybe assisting, reaching out to businesses that have websites and finding out. We're asking them to advertise on our site. What about us? We're not paying now. Keep in mind, this is a non-money transaction. But that we ask those who would put up, you know, the little blue, you know, and it's a live link that will take us right in to the PGCPS website. But I think that it could, you know, help in terms of, or you might want to put up a constituent service link or whatever to ask how many would be willing to put on their homepage a live link that connects them, their business people, their persons who reach out to them. It could help both. And we then would be assisting in kind of two ways, but looking at certain businesses that people here in our county, and so that may be something that we might want to try, but again, with the commentary, I saw you writing, we still need to understand that the digital divide is huge. in this country and in Prince George's, and so we need to find another way. But on the digital divide, if you're in it, you got it. Let's try to see if we can get businesses to help us with our links. Thank you.
Ms. Boston?
To Ms. Waller's suggestion, and I do agree that we do have parents that do not have access to emails, technology, so forth. But I think with the suggestion that was given to Ms. Shell earlier about making sure that they're available, these forms are available in the libraries, they can pick them up from the schools, I think that will help with the process of them not having to come all the way out here to the SASA building, which you suggested. But I don't think it's taken away from the board members' ability to still stay in contact with their constituents. I think this is just giving us another avenue by which we can make sure that their concerns are heard, in my opinion. That's my opinion about that. What I want to know is, how is the separation for when we have complaints from our staff? Will those complaints actually go to you, or will there be a separate process when we're having staff that may want to have a complaint and they don't want their names put out there, or you know what I'm trying to say? So is that a separate process, or will that now be combined with this?
Anything that comes to the Office of Constituent Services is confidential information. And so if someone wanted to speak with me personally or call in or submit, we have to handle that confidentially. But then also there are some things that we are not handling because they're driven by union contracts and certain grievance processes that we cannot interfere with. So it depends on the actual concern.
I don't think you answered my question.
Okay.
Is that a separate process? I mean, and will it be handled by your office now?
If it's a matter that we can handle, then it will be dealt with our office. And it's not, in terms of the tracking system, it's still in the tracking system, but it's still, that system is confidential.
Because if I'm looking at the form and the questions on the form is asking for names, your address, so forth, I think, I'm just saying, if I was an employee, I would be a little skeptical about using that process.
Correct. So maybe that employee may want to come in or call me, call the office, and ask to speak with me confidentially. Again, it depends on what the employee is calling about, because if it's a matter that is out of our purview, we wouldn't be able to take that matter on.
So it would be a separate department that would handle that. Is that what you're saying? It would not be handled by the Constituent Services
It is
Department?
possible, correct. It may have to be handled by Human Resources Office.
Thank you.
Ms. Waller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Shell, you know, being that we are a data-driven results school system, I believe that the constituent system is going to be great, and that I know that at the beginning of the school year and at different times we want to know, to get our reports, and I think that this is going to be great, a great way to get information back to us in a concise format. Will you be providing reports to the board at specific times, or how would you get us the information back? What's going to be the feedback?
Dr. Hyatt and I will be working out how he would like me to report back to the board.
Okay. And we were just talking about, you know, personnel within the system, that they do have a hotline number that they can call to do, and I don't know if that's something that you would put on there, but I assume that most employees do know that they can call the hotline, and they would know the next person line that they would need to speak to about, you know, confidential issues. But I believe that, you know, I look forward to working with you and your staff, and making the constituent system work. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Waller. Thank you, Ms. Shell. Any further comments? Dr. Height? Thank you very much for the presentation. We look forward to working with you. Colleagues, in deference to our constituents, we do have two people who are scheduled for public comment on agenda items. So I'm going to skip to 10.1 so that we can listen to or hear public comment from those two speakers. Our first person is Chandra Robinson. This is on the Capital Improvement Program. And you've been registered to speak in a public comment forum before the Board of Education, where we will listen to your comments. We ask that you use titles rather than names. When you hear the buzzer, you are allowed to finish your sentence, the sentence that you're on, and if you have a prepared statement, please feel free to leave it with Mr. Coleman.
Sure. Good evening. Chandra Robinson, and I am speaking in reference to the Capital Improvement Plan, specifically John Hanson Montessori, asking that you all would consider us in making us a priority as you all further discuss and vote on this particular issue. The area in which I will address will be more in interest of public safety. My kids have been at John Hanson since '09, and I have watched, due to the environment in which, the neighborhood in which the school is located, public safety has become an increasing alarming issue for us as parents and teachers. Because we are not in a gated environment, we have a great deal of interaction between the neighboring businesses and all types of activity. We have quite often the kids share a playground, and it's a path with Oxon Hill Elementary. The students are constantly walking through our playground. We, on Monday, it's nothing for us to have to, as parents, clean off the playground, the beer cans, the dirty diapers, whatever else goes on. We've had condoms on playgrounds. We've had all types of activities and paraphernalia found on the playground. So we keep coming to you because we're being told by administration that the concerns are being brought to you and that it's nothing that she can do. So if you all are the wrong group of individuals to come to, then maybe redirect me so I won't have to keep coming up here. But the issue with we've had in the last year 4 lockdowns due to criminal activity. I've driven through just last year an armed robbery with my kids in a car, guns drawn, the whole shebang. And my concern is the impact of depression in terms of the kids and the trauma. My children don't grow up in that type of environment, so there is a great deal of anxiety in coming to school. I have a great deal of anxiety as a parent dropping my children off at school. My kids spend more time at school than they do at home. So I need to feel some level of security and safety that my children, as well as everybody else there and the staff, are okay. I don't need to, I'm sure, go into the impact of depression and anxiety and the impact of that on performance and concentration as that correlates to test scores, which I'm sure you all are very interested in. Likewise, it impacts the teacher anxiety because they spend a great deal of their time trying to reassure and calm students and urge them it's okay to go outside, it's okay to play, it's okay to go to the bathroom, it's okay, you know, and that's time that could be spent doing more specific activities centered around the Montessori approach and actually learning. The other concern I have is the concern, we were told that this may be an issue. You've heard about the rodent infestation, you've heard about the water, you've heard about all of that, but in terms of safety and being told that this is something that's in your hands, nothing that our administration can do, concerns us and makes our administration or you all, it becomes a liability and a great deal of concern as parents. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Dr. Hyde, to the extent that in accordance with board policy that something needs to be addressed, if there are criminal issues going on, clearly the police department would need to be contacted at a school site, and I would expect the staff would be doing that if there's criminal activity occurring at a school site.
Not only that, Ms. Jacobs, we can have our security department go out and do an analysis of the walking path, the playground, and the road in front of and around the school.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Stephanie Powell-Lewis.
Good night, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Height. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you tonight. I am the Vice President of Programs for the John Hanson Montessori PTA. I come before you tonight to urge the board to fully consider a state-of-the-art school for the John Hanson Montessori students. As one of the few Montessori public schools in the Prince George's County, and a school which has consistently outperformed other schools and achieved adequately yearly progress, it is appalling to me that my child is subjected to eat in a cafeteria that is infested with mice and learning in a classroom where mice are running to and fro while they're getting lessons. I certainly don't believe that is the learning environment we want to allow our children to be educated in. With the current building that is located at Oxon Hill, our students are being deprived of the basic need of drinking water at school. The students are unable to drink the water because of the brown, yellowish water that comes out of the faucet. The discoloration is said to be caused from the corroded pipes and the failing of the pipe installation due to the old age. During the recent natural disaster, i.e. the earthquake and hurricane, the John Hanson Montessori School building has endured severe cracks in the wall and in the floor, which as a parent makes me nervous thinking about how much more this building can withstand with our children being educated there. I was present at a board meeting, and I heard one of the board members echoed equity. Where is the equity for this school when they have excellent test score? Data drives everything. But our children are in an environment that is not conducive to learning. We are asking for your help. I mean, these children, they do very well. The parents are very involved. But the school is not saying that. It's not giving them the 21st century technology that they need in order to continue to excel at what they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Powell. Powell-Lewis. Dr. Height, I wanted to give the constituents an opportunity to speak since we were kind of a little behind on the agenda. So we can either go ahead and address 10.1, or we can go back to 7.1.
We could move back to the consent agenda items,
okay.
Madam Chair, and if it's okay with the board, I would like to request that we pull item 7.1, 2011 Bridge to Excellence Master Plan, in as much as it was not loaded on board docs, and we will still have time to load that and have the board review it before it's due to the state.
So noted. That brings us to 7.2.
7.2, National Recovery Month. It is a proclamation.
Thank you. Colleagues, may I have a motion, please? Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Second.
It's been properly, thank you, Ms. Wallace. It's been properly moved and second that we accept and approve item 7.2 on the consent agenda. We'll move forward with the meeting, and then Ms. Eubanks, if you don't mind, we'll come back and read the proclamation into the record. All in favor? Any objections or abstentions? Seeing none, motion pass. 8.0, Dr. Height.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item are the items under budget consent agenda, and we have one item this evening, and that is 8.1, expenditure requirements for October 2011.
Thank you. Motion?
Move to accept.
Thank you, Ms. Waller. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. It's been properly moved and second that we accept budget consent agenda item and approve 8.1 expenditure requirements for October 2011. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor? Any objections or abstentions? Motion passed. Thank you.
Next item, Madam Chair, is under 10.0, governance unfinished business. These are second reader items. The first item is item 10.1, the capital improvement program for funding years 2013-2018. We've had one public hearing for the capital improvement program and several capital improvement program meetings to discuss the priorities associated with that program. So tonight we submit our capital improvement program for funding years 2013 to 2018 for approval.
So moved.
Did I hear a motion?
So moved.
Okay, it's been Thank you, Mr. Burrows and Ms. Waller. It's been properly moved and second that the Board of Education accept and approve the capital improvement program for funding years 2013 to 2018. This is governance unfinished business. Is there any discussion? Ms. Johnson.
Madam Chair, because the next item is, it kind of runs right into the next thing, to request of the superintendent, I have done so, but officially at this meeting, if we are so fortunate to get money, if the jobs bill passes, it is on the basis of projects, schools, roads, bridges, etc. And I really, really want to see that if that comes about, we are ready to have, along with our approved CIP through 218, it is through 218, that we also can show which projects would qualify and we would move if we are fortunate enough to have that bill pass and money comes to us. It may not, but at least we will be ready. And I think this is an appropriate time with the CIP passage today for moving forward that we have that ready.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Dr. Height, just for clarity, if any more, if more funds come, because we don't get the funds that we request of the state ever, and it's such a, compared to what we ask for and what we get, so if we were to get additional funds, the way Ms. Johnson is indicating, I assume that your recommendation would be to then deal with projects that are currently in there. And then, in other words, do you see the ability to be able to make additional recommendations? I know we try to stick to the 3DI study, but in terms of staff doing assessment to see whether there need to be shifts for any reason or any particular reason to do that.
Because of the priorities associated with constructing the CIP program, Madam Chair, we would submit the CIP programs or projects that are next in line, so to speak. And as you indicated, we have never received the amount of CIP funding that we've requested, so therefore there are a set of projects that will likely require funding in the event additional funding is available.
And to the extent that that would be the case, also federal money usually goes to the states, and then they would have to figure out how to, I guess,
That's correct. Those monies would be provided to the state, and then the state would construct the mechanism for
how they,
for distributing those to the district.
Thank you, Dr. Height. Ms. Dent, call the roll, please.
Madam Chair, for clarification purposes, can I have the maker of the motion restate the motion?
Certainly.
Move to accept.
The motion on the floor is to accept item 10.1 as submitted by Superintendent Height, which is a capital improvement program for funding years 2013 to 2018. It was moved by Mr. Burrows and second by Ms. Waller.
You voted, but you didn't ask for the roll, the call to roll.
Are you saying that I acknowledged her after we voted?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
Positive.
I apologize. I thought the discussion was open, or else I wouldn't have called on you again, Ms. Johnson. I thought that we were still in that process. I did too. I thought we were in discussion mode. Okay. So, can you announce the outcome of the vote? Because you weren't here. I wasn't here. Okay. So, was it all in favor? Is that what you're saying?
The vote was unanimous. Mrs. Beck was not in.
Thank you. Okay.
The next item, Madam Chair, is item 10.3. It is the revised board policy number 8372, requests for reports, staff studies. This is a recommendation that has come from the policy committee, and I submit this for your approval.
Thank you, Dr. Height. Mr. Burrows?
Dr. Height, Ms. Harrison, under this policy, if I were, I'm just going to use an example. If I were to request all of the board contracts and how much they cost and who they were given to and if they were MBE or not, and that exceeded 3 hours of work, what would be the process after that? I believe according to this policy, the process would be the superintendent would then come back to the board with a different way of gathering the information. Is that correct?
Well, he has two different options. He can come back and say it's going to take more than 3 hours for the allotted time, and this is the estimated amount of time, or he can advise the board of alternative resources or information that can be provided to you so that staff does not have to recreate a different type of policy, and then the board would make a determination as to whether or not they accept his recommendation or they want to wait. If it takes 2 months, they want to wait until the 2 months pass. So it opens up the discussion between the board and the superintendent as to how best to provide the information to the board if it's going to exceed 3 hours.
That would be a full board decision.
That is correct.
I guess my concern with this policy is that if an individual board member had a request that the majority of the board disagreed with or didn't believe was valuable, the majority of the board could then tell that member, you know, we cannot do this because it exceeds 3 hours and you won't get the report. Is that correct?
That's true, but I think the attempt here is to balance the interest of the superintendent and his staff to be able to focus on the day-to-day operations of the school system versus the board's right to request information that will facilitate its decision-making, and to the extent that the time spent by the superintendent and his staff is a significant amount of time that takes him away from his primary duties. It should come back to the board to make that decision as to whether or not they really want the superintendent to spend that amount of time rather than focus on the areas. And for an individual board member who may want to have information that other board members do not consider necessarily to be of a prominent nature, I think that the superintendent can still address that not as a study, but direct an individual board member to where that board member may be able to get that information. I think this policy is really geared towards the overarching systemic type of information that you're looking for, rather than a general question that you might want answered as an individual board member.
Absolutely, and I definitely respect Dr. Height's staff time. I just don't want to get in the business of having to count votes in order to get information from the administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burrows. Ms. Beck?
Move to accept.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and second that the board accepts and adopts policy 8372, method of operation, request for reports, staff studies. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, call the roll, Ms. Dent, please.
On the motion, Mr. Armwood.
Aye.
Ms. Boston.
Aye.
Mr. Burrows.
No.
Ms. Eubanks.
Aye.
Ms. Higgins.
Aye.
Ms. Johnson.
Aye.
Ms. Waller.
Aye.
Ms. Jackson.
Aye.
Mrs. Beck.
Aye.
Ms. Jacobs.
Aye.
9-1. 9 ayes, 1 nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item is items under 11.0, new business. These are first readers. Items 11.1 to 11.3.
Move to accept.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second that we accept items 11.1, 2, and 3 as first readers. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Thank you. Ms. Eubanks, prepared to read into the record proclamation for national recovery?
Proclamation, National Recovery Month, September 2011. Whereas behavioral health is an essential part of health and one's overall wellness, and prevention works, treatment is effective, and people can recover from substance abuse and mental disorders. Whereas all people have the fundamental and inherent value to be accepted and treated with respect, human dignity, and worth. Whereas individuals should have access to fully participate in community life, including economic advancement and prosperity, fair and decent housing, quality education, positive opportunities to benefit and contribute to material, cultural, and the social process. Whereas it is critical to educate our policymakers, friends, and family members, healthcare providers, and businesses that substance use and mental disorders are treatable and that people should seek assistance for these conditions with the same urgency as they would for any other health condition. And whereas all Americans have the opportunity to access provisions with the Affordable Care Act and Mental Health Parity and Addictions Equality Act, aimed to improve physical and emotional health while ensuring people will receive the care they need at a more reasonable cost. And whereas substance use and mental disorders are a serious public health problem. In 2009, 4.3 million people received treatment for substance use disorders and 30.2 million people for mental health. 2009 National Survey on Drug Use and Health. We must continue the millions more who need help. And whereas to help more people achieve long-term recovery and learn how recovery positively benefits the nation's overall well-being, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, SAMHSA, the White House Office of National Drug Control on Policy, and the Prince George's County Board of Education invite all residents of Prince George's County to participate in the National Recovery Month. Prevention works, treatment is effective, people recover. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of Prince George's County hereby joins with the nation to proclaim the month of September 2011 National Recovery Month, and be it finally resolved that the Board of Education of Prince George's County encourages educators, students, parents, and all residents of Prince George's County to honor this observance with appropriate programs and activities.
Thank you, Ms. Eubanks. Colleagues, we have 6 registered speakers for public comment on non-agenda items. Our first registered speaker is Kim Ryan, Yorktown Elementary School boundary issues. Please come forward. You have 3 minutes to speak on the topic for which you were registered. You may not relinquish your time to any other member, any other speaker. We ask that you use titles rather than names. And when you hear the buzzer, you may finish the sentence that you're on. Ms. Ryan.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair and other distinguished members of the board. My name is Kim Ryan, and I have been a parent of Yorktown Elementary School since 2002. I must tell you that I am so upset to see the continuous decline in the consistent education of our children at Yorktown Elementary School. The Yorktown Elementary School that my now 15-year-old attended from 2002 to 2007, and the Yorktown Elementary School that my 3rd grade son and my 1st grade daughter now attend are 2 totally different schools. Yorktown Elementary School is currently at a 55% state-rated capacity. The school can accommodate 452 students. We currently have under 250 students at Yorktown. 29 of these students are in the 1st grade class, which is my daughter's class. It is a mere shadow compared to the bustling, vibrant, and exciting school it was just a few years ago. I have witnessed our school's population diminish over the years due to bad decisions. My children are currently not receiving the same positive education experiences that other schools are receiving in other BOE elementary schools, or even elementary schools in Prince George's County. In the past 3 years, we have lost numerous valuable resources due to the inability to properly populate Yorktown Elementary School. We have no assistant principal and no read and recovery. We share our guidance counselor with another underpopulated BOE school. She is currently working in our school approximately 10 days a month. We also share our physical education teacher with the same school. This school just qualified for a full-time physical education teacher, and now Yorktown has a half-time substitute physical education teacher. There is a media specialist who comes to Yorktown 1 day a week, and on October 3rd, a decision will be made as to whether or not our music teacher, who is also our computer lab teacher, will be reduced to a half-time position. We have seen our very active, involved PTA decline as our numbers have been declined. All this, along with receiving a new principal 1 week before the start of school. These changes do not positively affect our children. They are at a disadvantage at no fault of their own. Your mission reads, the Prince George's County Board of Education will advance the achievement of its diverse student body through community engagement, sound policy, governance, accountability, and physical responsibility. I am here tonight as a part of your community, asking to be heard, asking for you to be accountable for decisions that have been made. I know our children at Yorktown are not receiving a fair education. Our school is greatly lacking in continuity. In the listing of elementary schools on your website, Yorktown is listed last. We feel last. I am asking you to be accountable to our families and our teachers. We are positively involved parents, homeowners, taxpayers, and registered voters. Our children deserve fair and balanced decisions regarding their education. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. Joyce Correll.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Height, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Joyce Correll, and this is my second year as the PTA president of Yorktown Elementary. I'm here on behalf of the PTA members to respectfully ask you, please review the boundary lines related to our school. Yorktown's enrollment has declined from over 600 students in years gone by to our current enrollment of 246. By changing the boundary lines to include all of Racetrack Road, the whole Racetrack Road corridor, our enrollment would increase to a level that would allow us to have the staff and services that our children deserve, and in fact our taxes pay for. We pay the same taxes as the other schools, and we don't get the same services. We're very concerned about the future of our school and the effect of the continued low enrollment on our children's education. We believe our children are not getting an equal education, although we do keep hearing that our children are getting equal face time, and half time is in fact enough time for our kids. How do you tell a child who experienced a problem on Tuesday that they have to talk to the guidance counselor on Thursday? That's not acceptable. We don't believe a halftime guidance counselor is enough. Yorktown's children have had 4 PE and music teachers, 3 media specialists, 3 different principals, and the loss of our assistant principal, plus a cherished guidance counselor that was with us for 12 years because of these boundaries and our lack of children. Studies show that continuity of care, that makes children feel secure, that makes them feel safe and more confident. Where's the continuity in 4 different PE teachers, 4 different music teachers? That there is none. As a parent, not knowing who'll be teaching your child, that's unnerving as well. Every year, a week before school, we didn't know what teachers our children had. I'd like to close with a quote from one of Bowie's top elected officials, Mayor Fred Robinson. He was recently a judge at Yorktown's Chili Cook-Off in April, and he had this to say to the Bowie Patch, which is a local paper. Yorktown is a great school, and you can tell by all the people here that it's got a lot of great parent participation, and the kids, they love it here, they enjoy it. And that linkage, that's what makes it work. Well, Dr. Height, ladies and gentlemen of the board, I'm asking you, please help us keep Yorktown working. No Child Left Behind, that was intended to help all our children. So we're asking you to please don't leave our children behind. Consider changing the boundaries to increase our enrollment and thereby restoring all the resources and services we rightfully deserve. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Correll. Jacques Chevalier, Administration at Parkdale High School.
Jacques Chevalier comes now to this board to speak about 2 subjects quickly in our schools. First, when PGCPS had their countywide high school event at Roosevelt High School last month, you allowed a karate teacher from the Bladensburg Rec Center named Dr. Clifford Thomas, whom demands to read children's report cards out loud in his class, or he boots your family from his class. This is blatant child molestation. Please do not invite...
Mr. Chevalier?
Yes.
Can I ask you to use titles and not names, please?
Well, he doesn't work for the school system. You said this person doesn't work for school. He works for the rec. And I appreciate you add my time back on, man. Okay. All right. Please do not invite this creep back in our schools again. And yes, I have written Mr. Gathers and Ms. Forker to no avail for a remedy. Now, moving on to Parkdale, where my 9th grade son attends, I must point out how the superintendent, Billy Blankme, and my school board member, Peg, a fake response during my son's first day of school when I attempted to visit him. The sometimes intoxicated black female Parkdale principal low-handed me and said, "What are you doing here?" in a loud and demeaning tone. Well, I calmly stated, I wanted to visit with my child on his first day of school like all leaders and politicians had encouraged in the media. This so-called lady seemed drunk to me and told me school was too busy to have me in school this day. So I left and came back after discovering Lieutenant Governor Anthony Brown, the school superintendent, Rashawn Baker, county exec, and my white female school board member were showboating with the media that day. So I came back. Well, I asked the insensitive leader of our schools, the superintendent, to allow me in the school for the first day, and he said he saw no reason not to. But he still allowed the intoxicated principal to boot me from the campus after I called the board lawyer on 3 occasions trying to gain entry. This was wrong, and since I failed that day to gain access for your fake media showboating, I pray every single night the FBI will soon make arrests in this very building. I wish all who could have corrected this injustice that day the absolute worst in all of you, because you did not serve families, you serve yourself, and I hate you for your coward acts each time a high-income burner is caught for corruption in this county. Just ask them who comes to court and taunt them, and they will tell you, cornrow-wearing Jacques Chevalier. I will laugh and go to parties and celebrate your demise for doing wrong to our children. The FBI and white Fed prosecutor, my main man, Rod Rosenstein, over there in Greenbelt, bring the indictments forthwith, as you lawmen say. Now, on a kinder note, the cheerleaders at Parkdale High School need some mats. They cost about $3,800. My son happens to be the only male cheerleader there, so obviously it's a request. I know you certainly want to do that for a nice kind like me, Justin Ross, and my school board member in District 2. I would certainly ask that you help out this black all-squad cheerleading squad at the school. We know that you do a lot of things for some of your white constituents. We're asking you to help out some black folks for once during your tenure. Thank you very kindly. This has been Jacques Chevalier.
Steve Krukar.
Good evening, Board of Education, as well as Dr. Height. Thank you very much for an opportunity to speak. First of all, Dr. Height, I want to congratulate you on your recent appointment to the National PTA, and I really appreciate the fact that you really do care about parents, really do care about parental involvement in education, and so do we. And that's why we from Yorktown Elementary School are here, because we are asking for your involvement in our school to a greater degree in terms of dealing with boundary issues as well as staffing issues at the school. I just want to say this, that I do support the comments of Mrs. Carell as well as Mrs. Ryan with regard to those 2 basic issues. And what I'd like to do is, instead of reiterating those issues there, which are very important and certainly worth re-mentioning, what I'd like to do is this, is I'd like to look at the future. What does the future portend? And I'm going to look at it from a positive perspective. What does the future portend for students from Yorktown Elementary School, or any elementary school for that matter, who have proper staffing at their schools? And that's a major concern of mine. I happen to be a parent of 2 different children who attend Yorktown, a 3rd grade and a 5th grade student. But anyway, this is for your consideration. A properly staffed school, such as Yorktown Elementary School, really needs at this time, helps to promote academic success in both the middle school and the high school for students. That's 1. Number 2, it will help them compete for limited spaces available to colleges and universities nationwide when that time comes in their life to actually compete for that educational opportunity. Number 3, also with regard to receiving scholarship money, a proper education is very, very important to that too. The higher your academic standing, the more opportunity in that area. And God knows, and we all know, that money is very tight these days. Scholarships are very important. Number 4, for successful future careers in the marketplace. In fact, WTOP this morning had some news stories with regard to how tough it is for 20-something-year-olds to basically even be able to make it out into the marketplace, even to be able to start their lives, start their careers, have proper marriages and families. I mean, if you don't have a proper education, you're already starting handicapped. But a proper education will help you, at least even in a tough economic situation, to properly launch into the future. Also, it helps to promote more stable marriages and families. If you have a proper education starting from your younger years and that actually promotes a stronger marriage and family situation, which also helps to promote stronger communities and greater, in fact, number 6, it helps to promote greater community involvement, positive community involvement, instead of, for example, people having to become a burden on society or a detriment to society. They become a very positive contribution to society. So again, I want to reiterate, and I'd like to ask the board as well as Dr. Height, please consider new boundaries at the north side of BOE for Yorktown Elementary School and the elementary schools there, so that we have a proper staffing formula at Yorktown. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Krukar. Malika Dorn.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board, and Dr. Height. My name is Malika Dorn. I'm speaking on behalf of my youngest daughter. On July 11, 2011, my daughter scored over 90% in each category of the early admissions to kindergarten assessment report that is administered by Prince George's County Public Schools. She has thus demonstrated that she is fully ready to begin kindergarten this school year despite her age. My request to allow my daughter to attend the Robert Goddard French Immersion Program along with her 2 sisters has been denied based on the Administrative Policy 6148, which denies early entrance into specialty programs. I submitted the sibling application for specialty programs on December 22, 2010, almost 2.5 months prior to this policy being adopted. My daughter is being denied because of her age, 38 days past the September 1st deadline. She has demonstrated, though, by passing the rigorous early admissions test, that she is fully capable of being successful in the French Immersion Program. My daughter also attended and performed exceptionally well at a 3-week summer camp that the French Immersion Program offered under the same kindergarten teacher that hopefully she would be assigned to if she were allowed to go to the French Immersion Program this year. Needless to say, my daughter was very upset and disappointed because she was not allowed to attend kindergarten at Robert Goddard this school year. After many, many tears, she were cried by my daughter, who was very eager to attend this school year. Really, there is no reason for my daughter to continue to suffer. I'm requesting that my daughter be allowed in class at the French Immersion Program while the adults continue to work this matter out. Needless to say, time is of the essence. She's already missed 21 days of critical instruction. Having my daughter wait an entire school year to start the program because of her age, rather than allowing her to start because she has demonstrated readiness, would not only be unfair to her, but also would be a grave disservice to her as well. So I do thank you for your time in considering my daughter's special circumstances and your favorable response to allow her to attend the kindergarten program at Robert Goddard French Immersion for the 2011-2012 school year would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dorn. Clifford Brooks.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, and Mr. Superintendent. My name is Clifford Brooks. I am the father of the young lady who just spoke and the grandfather of the child for whom she spoke. I have filed an appeal and I've not heard anything back. I asked for an expedited hearing on this matter. I request today that my granddaughter be allowed to enter Robert Goddard French immersion program provisionally. Each day she is out of that classroom does harm to her and to her educational development. There's really no reason why she should suffer while these issues work themselves out. It would be a travesty to have a decision made in her favor months down the road with the disadvantage that would cause her. So I'm asking the board to allow her to enter Robert Goddard. And I'm also asking the board to take a look, a careful look, at Administrative Procedure 6148. The provision, I believe it's 3C6, which states that early admission is not applicable to specialty programs. What that does is it sets up one class of kindergarten kids, or one group of kindergarten kids, who timely applied and who is eligible for kindergarten by age, and treats that group one way, and then takes another group of kindergarten kids who qualify by rigorous testing and who has applied timely, and treats them differently. We don't believe that that is equity. We don't believe that that is fair. I will not go into all of the details of why I think it is unlawful, unreasonable, and arbitrary. I will leave that for the board. And I've also sent that to a number of other staff members. I really would appreciate it if we could get some immediate action so that my granddaughter can start in that class pending results.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. And Dr. Hyde, I assume this matter is before you on appeal, and okay. Thank you, I just want to make sure. Colleagues, that concludes our public comment list for non-agenda items. And it brings us to any questions, comments, concerns on any follow-up items, which I see there were none. And I will entertain a motion to confirm actions taken in executive session.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Thank you, Ms. Beck. It's been properly moved and second that we confirm actions taken in executive session on Thursday, September 22nd, 2011. The items were as follows: discussed administrative appointments, administrative transfers, personnel matters, legal matters, and employee appeals. All in favor? Aye. Any objections or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. And a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and second. We are hereby adjourned.